Hi guys, it's me, Arden Lee. I am back today with another video. And in today's video, I want to talk about something I posted earlier, which was, I wrote a status that said, there is no such thing as too good to be true. There is only how long it takes for you to get into alignment with receiving it. So I want to talk a little bit about what that means. And if you don't know me yet, I am the creator of the Repat Project. It's an 8-week course. We start again June 30th. And in the Repat Project, we align ourselves with those things that we previously thought were too good to be true. We learn how to backwards engineer the life that we want for ourselves through removing the patterns that create the distance between us and that creative power that gives us access to that infinite possibility. We figure out how that works, how those imprints set in, and how we can undo them so we have that freedom once more. So yeah, go check out the description box. I have a link to a free PDF guide about the Repatterning Project. I would also love to see you in the Repatterning Parlor, which is the free Facebook group that I moderate for people who are interested in this kind of work. It is free. Just click through, come join us, come say hi. We would love to see you. And like I said, we are enrolling currently for June 30th. So yeah, super excited about all that. And what's interesting is I'm noticing lately that as I'm creating more and more of the life that I want for myself, the life that I feel is my idea of a life that I'm in love with, I'm noticing how much I'm being invited. That almost sounds like it was a negative connotation, but it wasn't. I'm actually genuinely excited about this. I'm seeing how much I'm being invited to think bigger and to start asking questions like, well, how am I going to make that work? Not that's never going to work, or I can't have that, or I can't afford that, or I can't do that, right? I've made a video before about getting rid of the phrase I can't afford that from our vocabulary, even though there are many times that that notion is put forward in a way that ignores classism and it ignores economic disparity. It's important that we don't ignore that we acknowledge what kind of privilege we have and don't have, and we acknowledge that systemic inequality within the world, because that's something that we, as part of the superorganism, as part of the collective, are currently being called into addressing so that we can look for the survival of the species, essentially. So that's super important, but at the same time, on an individual basis, how do we shift from that mindset of I can't afford something to how do I afford something? How do I become the person who can afford something? And if that's triggering for you, I would just love to ask you, what's so bad about becoming the person who can afford that thing, right? If there were a way for you to do it, wouldn't it be worth that amount of work? I'm putting in an enormous amount of work right now so that I'm the person who can afford to fully fund her band at the level that I want it to operate. I'm saving up for my next album. All of my music that I create. I have a band called Arden and the Wolves. I would love it if you checked us out. And our EP, Who Can You Trust, came out last year. And I'm saving up for the next, big project, including like a full length and, a full-length album. I want to do a video. I'm looking more into what kind of budget that's going to take for me to really do it on the level that I want to be playing at, right? When I put out the video for the single off of Who Can You Trust last year, I wasn't at the same level of resources, and I made it in a very like guerrilla DIY fashion. I'm still proud of what I created at that point in time, but I don't want to be doing that forever, right? I want to be able to give myself greater and greater access to more and more, more and more high quality, forms of artistic output, and those things aren't cheap. You know, you need a team to do that. You know, you can either be a filmmaker yourself or you can hire one, right? So it's either going to take you a while, and even then you'd have to learn, right? So anyway, all of this is to say that I am working in these energies of figuring out what is that thing that feels too good to be true, and how do I get there? And it doesn't just have to be money. That's, you know, an example that is really concrete. It's something that we can really point to. But it can also be the idea of a relationship, the idea of where we're living, you know, whatever it is. If you can think of it, it exists already. And that's not to downplay how much alignment you might have to get into in order to attract it, right? Alignment is not just, oh, I'm just going to think happy thoughts and then everything is going to land in my lap, because if it were, it would be a lot easier and more of us would be doing it. It's not. It's a whole system. And getting to that place where you can make those great big dreams come true is not something that you're going to do in an instant. It's going to take you steps to get there, right? Even, you know, for those of you who are following my journey as you know, as long ago as, say, 2 years ago, you know, around 2017, I remember doing a video, even before I was putting out regular content. I remember doing a video specifically just because I wanted to talk about something. And that video was called Healing Hurts and Journeys Take Time, right? So when we talk about alignment, that's not a way of dismissing something and saying, oh, you're just not thinking the right thoughts. You're just not, you know, we're not looking at someone who doesn't have access to all the resources that we maybe do and judging them for just not living their lives right, just they're thinking right, or right, not being positive vibes enough or whatever. That's not what alignment is about. Alignment is about, what do I have to do to become the person who can easily access this? And that's not easy, you know. Alignment is no joke. Alignment is a lot of work. I've been doing this work now for, you know, it was about 3 years ago that I set the intention, you know, and over that first year, you know, things slowly started to fall into place. And once I recognized this journey and this path for what it was, and really saw how much I was going to have to surrender, you know, that was about maybe 2 years ago. It's about a year into the journey that I did that. So this is not, you know, at the same time, I look at how far I've come and I'm like, whoa, this is happening so fast. And at the same time, it's also happening so slowly, because of course there are things that I want for myself that are these great big dreams that I have at every single step that I take toward it. You know, every video I make, every song that I write, every penny I save, you know, to reinvest in my dreams, all of these things, you know, in the everyday mundane, it really feels like it takes a lot of time. And then at the same time, you look at how all of that is added up and the ways that you've shifted and the way that that's called you into bigger growth and more internal transformation and all of this other stuff. And you're like, whoa. So it's very, you know, that's what I talk about sometimes when I talk about quantum time mindsets. This is not, we're not, like Jason Silva said, there are decades where nothing happens, and there are years when decades happen. Sometimes there are days or weeks when decades happen, right? When things go really fast. And we're in this period right now of really intense movement, intense transformation. So we have, you know, moreover in the collective, we have more room to play with currently, with all of the energies that are going on, with everything shifting and with everything being in this state of upheaval. It's not easy, but there is a lot of opportunity. There is a lot of room to play. So more so than we've seen, at least in any other time in my personal experience of it anyway. So alignment is no joke, right? Alignment is not thinking a single thought. You know, alignment takes time. And burnout, the definition of burnout, as I've come to understand it, is trying to grow faster than the speed of your alignment, right? If you you know, if you're aiming for something and your internal state hasn't quite caught up yet, and you haven't done the necessary, moving of density, the necessary rearrangements in your life, that's when burnout is going to happen. So there's no, so when I say that there's no such thing as too good to be true, there is only how long it takes you to align yourself with receiving it. Sometimes it might actually take you a while, right? But all of these things, all of these possibilities, we want to shift our mindset from not allowing ourselves things that haven't felt possible to us before to getting to that place where we start to say, okay, how do I do this? How do I make this work? Kiara Mizuko of Bold Self has said something on her podcast in the past where she says, essentially, I'm sure I'm paraphrasing, but the point she made was, there's two kinds of people. There are people who are like, oh, that's out of my budget, or I can't afford that. And then there's the kinds of people who are like, all right, give me some time. It's going to take me a minute to get the money together for that, but hang on, I'm interested. Let me go do some work and I'll get back to you. And living in that second way just creates so much more freedom. Now, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, and the kind of system that we live in so often underpays people, and having a steady job, a steady paycheck, oftentimes the things that, we sacrifice our ability to increase our income whenever we want by working harder, when we trade that for the security of a steady paycheck. And there's nothing wrong with either of those options. They're just two different options, right? If we're working in a job where we do have that steady paycheck, of course, it's always possible for us to negotiate for a raise or a promotion or make a move to another company that is paying better. So there are still things that are under our control. But these are all factors that we want to look at, right? There's also getting a side hustle. I know, as a millennial, an older millennial, but a millennial nonetheless, as a millennial, this idea of the side hustle is it feels so exhausting, but but it's there. It is an option, right? So, and whatever it is, maybe, like I said, it doesn't have to be monetary. It's just that that's an example that is very concrete and easy for me to use in explaining it. But it could be about the kind of relationship that you want, And I was talking to a friend of mine today, about the notion of attachment, about, they were kind of hooked on a person, as we do in the human experience, as we get hooked on people, and they were really bummed about it. And I was like, look, you're not going to want to hear this. This is not going to be pleasant, but I know exactly how to solve this problem, and I can teach you how to do it. And he was like, all right, I'm open to hearing. So I said, I was like, you need to get to the point where you're choosing yourself over this person. And what do I mean by that? Because that just sounds so, everyone says that, right? What do I mean by that? I was like, you have to want the relationship where you are desired equally as passionately as you desire that person, more than you want it to show up in this specific person. This is where we talk about free will. Learning magic, you guys, has taught me more about self-responsibility than literally any other practice. Because if you wouldn't do a love spell on someone to manipulate them into having feelings for you that don't arise organically, because that's fake, because then you get Skeet Ulrich in the craft, right? Or you get something that is, you get this energy of trying to force two puzzle pieces to fit that don't actually fit together. And rather than casting a love spell and just everything just immediately being amazing, magic is not magic, you guys. It's just manipulation of energy. So you create this tension, this thing where, oh my God, we keep being compelled toward one another, and yet it's not a fit. It's not a fit. We're not working. And I've been in that energy when I was a pickup artist trying to, I got hooked on a person, I got hooked on many people, and I wanted them because I couldn't imagine someone outside of themselves. I couldn't imagine someone outside of that person who who desired me equally in return. It was a limitation in my own mindset. So we always look at things and we're like, if we're hooked on a person, we're always like, okay, them or better. We don't allow ourselves to imagine better when, when there's a person that we're hooked on in front of us. That probably could be an entirely separate video in and of itself, and maybe I will. But the point behind that is that when we release our attachment to where it comes from, we open up more pipelines for the universe to deliver it to us. And it feels, I understand, because I remember, like, if I've heard this in my 20s, I would have immediately, like, what would have come to my mind was the idea of settling. The idea of, oh, I don't get to have the person that I really want because obviously I'm not as good and I have to settle for someone who's, who I'm not going to feel as strongly about as I feel about this person that I'm looking up to. And really, that's just us not being in love with ourselves, because why would we imagine that someone who would be in love with us would be not as great as the person that we want, right? If we really love ourselves, we'll understand that the person who does not feel equally as passionate about us, even though that's not a reflection on their own character, what it means is that they're not meeting our standards, right? Because your standard for that relationship is to be desired equally as passionately by the person that you so desire. And if that's not happening, it's not the thing, right? So that is what it is to get in alignment when it doesn't have anything to do with money. That's like alignment around that is, I am in alignment with being loved the way that I love someone else. I choose myself. I love myself so much that anyone who doesn't love me as much as I love me is just, I don't want them, because they're not really attractive to me anymore, because they're not seeing me, and their inability to see me renders them less attractive in my eyes. This is how I lost submission, you guys. This is how I lost submission and seduction, which were like my two biggest things, before I went on this whole journey of repatterning. And I finally realized, I was like, why am I valuing my submission so much? Why would I find a person attractive if they believe that my best quality is my ability to comply? Why wouldn't I want someone who would value me for my own ideas and my creativity and my ingenuity? Why wouldn't I want someone who actually wants me to have agency? My agency is amazing. I get amazing things done. Why wouldn't I want someone, who trusted my voice? And I let go of seduction because I was also like, and I don't want someone who's not willing to take a risk for me. I don't want someone who's not, I can give plenty of green lights, obviously, and I've done seduction for so long that, like, I probably give green lights, like, just without even trying, when I'm a green light, like, my whole body shows it. So, I'm fine with that, but I'm not going to try and persuade or convince someone, because if they need persuading or convincing, then they're just not seeing me, and that's ridiculous. And I know now that because I can finally see myself, right? So finally, right? So that's what it is to get into alignment so that you can call in that thing that maybe feels too good to be true. And the thing that feels too good to be true in relationship might be, someone who is actually someone who I'm attracted to more than this person I'm hooked on, and who's attracted to me in return. And if I think that that's not possible, then of course I'm going to be hooked on them, and of course I'm going to have a lot of attachment in that regard. Yeah, and of course we're still human, like we're gonna have feelings and whatever, and I'm sure that there are people in my life who, if I lost them, or if they weren't, didn't want to be around me anymore, yeah, of course I would be sad, right? But as a principle, I understand that that whatever happens, it's always an opportunity for, whenever something happens that I don't want, right? When I'm like, oh man, that bums me out, I'm sad, it's always an opportunity to look at, like, well, what do I do want? And what do I want, right? And how do I get into alignment with that? If it's not showing up in this particular vessel, okay, I'm gonna let that vessel go, because I know that the fastest way for me to get what I want is to open up more possibility and say, send the right person to me. So anyway, so a cool thing happened. Last night where I messaged my favorite dancer. I'm not, really a dancer myself, so it's not something I follow typically. But there was this one dancer whose page I followed just because I saw his videos. One of his videos had gone viral, and I was like, oh man, that's so cool. I want to follow this person. Like the way that he moves, like just really encompasses the precision and flow of the angelic nature. Like I feel like I get upgraded just like watching his relationship with his body. I'm like, this is so cool. And I messaged him last night, just kind of like, there was a video that got posted that had a link to his personal profile, and I just messaged him and I was like, hey, I like your work, or whatever it was that I said. I think it's very inspiring. And he messaged me back immediately, and we started talking about our our work and our art, and he asked me to share some of my what I do with him. So I sent him a link to my album, my EP, and he was like, this is awesome, I want to work with you. And I was like, what? And he lives in Italy, so it was like, I'm sure that I'm gonna have to, in order to get him to do, a music video or something with me, then I'm sure that I need a budget for that. Obviously I'm like, I would want to pay him a rate that he felt was fair, at the very least, be able to pay for his travel and accommodations or whatever. So immediately what I do is, I'm not like, well, I can't afford that. I'm like, wow, all right, how do I make this work? This is an opportunity that I want to give myself. I just want to make this cool creation with this artist that I happen to admire. I think that, well, yeah, of course, I'm a hell yes to that, right? So if I'm already a hell yes, then it's just a matter of how long is it going to take me to get into alignment? Do I want to, right now I don't have any new material that is ready to come out. I'm writing the next album, so I can go back into studio and produce it, but it's probably going to be the end of the year before I have much to show for it, or at least fall. So do I choose a song from the last EP and put out a video, even though the EP is like a year old now? Or do I say like, hey, let's do it? I'm totally in, but give me some time. Let me come up with a good song. Let me come up with a budget to pay you fairly, and we'll do it later in the year. Who knows? I'll figure it out. But that's the question that I start asking myself. I don't immediately go, oh man, that could be amazing, but I don't have any new music right now. Or, that would be amazing, but I'm putting all my budget toward saving up for the album, which, by the way, both of those things are true, right? But it's just that shift in mindset and saying like, I'm a yes to this. So let me figure out how we're going to make this happen one way or another. So now I get to figure out how I'm going to make that happen. So, so we'll see. But it's super cool. I'm happy about that. And that was what inspired me to post that status about there is no such thing as too good to be true. There is only how long it takes you to align yourself with receiving it. Sometimes that means, doing what you got to do and hustling and making something happen for yourself. I'm not really sure why it feels all the time like in my specific blueprint that I'm always funding the things that I want to create. And I know there are other people who are more collaborative, who do more things that are for trade, or that they collaborate together and they don't own the full rights to it. It really feels for me like a lot of like the way that I solve things, the thing that is in my soul blueprint is, how do I raise the money and pay the people that I want to create with me. And I guess that's fine. I guess it's what I'm doing. I guess it's what I'm choosing or whatever. But whatever it is, whatever possibility you need to look at, to make something happen one way or the other. Whether it's financial or whether it's barter or whether it's finding other people who want to do it with you, whatever that thing is, aligning yourself to the person who is also a yes, right? In whatever way that means. So that's my invitation for you today is get rid of the idea that there are things that are too good to be true and start thinking about what you need to do and how much time you need and how much you need to move in order to make it a reality for yourself. The bigger and the farther away it is, the longer of a time it's going to take. That's fine. There's going to be really fun things that happen along the way. There's going to be steps in between that you're going to really enjoy, and that's terrific. Just keep your eye on that goal, and remember that, you know, on the path to you're achieving the dream of, you know, being the musician who can just like completely sustain her music, you know, who can like just self-sustain, not have to keep, you know, worrying about to have it like the musician who can have like a band that pays for itself. It's like, that's like the dream these days, right? On the way to doing that, you know, you'll have these cool moments where an artist you really admire comes forward and says like, wow, I want to work with you. In a way that's fun and really surprising. So even on the journey, there will be all these wonderful things that that happen and manifest in front of you that you can enjoy. So I encourage you to figure out what you need to get into alignment to make your too good to be true happen for yourself. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.